Geobyte.
Hello friends, welcome to the Geobyte. In this video, let us discuss some more important problems which were asked in DRDO and ISRO in the previous exams. Let us take the very first problem. My dear friends, before going to start the problem, I have a request for you is, since all these problems once asked, these are all the problems very important, and hence you practice each and every problem at least 2 times. Practice is very important to get the success in any competitive exam. Without practice, it is impossible to get the success in the competitive exam. Look at the very first problem. Look at the first problem. A simply supported beam with width B and depth D carries a central load W and undergoes a deflection delta at the center. Okay, a simply supported beam carries a point load at the center. Point load at the center. Width of the beam is given B and depth is given D. Okay, if the width and depth are interchanged, the deflection at the center of the beam would attain at the value. When the width of the beam is B, the deflection is, when the width is B, when the width B equal to width, when the B equal to width, D equal to depth, delta is given as deflection. What is asking? If the width and depth are interchanged, if the width is occupied by the depth, or if the width is replaced by depth and depth is replaced by width, the deflection at the center of the beam would attain the value. Let us take the separate page. First let us take the 8 minute. Okay, simply supported beam carries a point load at the center. The magnitude of load is W. The length of the beam is L. Then maximum deflection, the maximum deflection Y max at the center is WL cube by 48 EI. This is the formula. Now for the first case, for the case 1, it is given like this. It is a rectangular beam of width B, depth is D. For this case, moment of inertia I equal to BD cube by 12. Similarly, for the second case, case 2, it is given that width and depth are replaced. Then this is the breadth, this is the depth. For this case, moment of inertia I equal to, dB cube by 12. Right. Now, for the both cases, here load is remaining constant, length remaining constant, Young's modulus remains constant. Then the deflection, of course, original deflection is given as delta. Delta is inversely proportional to I. Since delta is deflection is inversely proportional to I can say that the product of deflection and moment of inertia is proportional to 1, or the product of deflection and moment of inertia is equal to constant. Then I can say delta 1 into I1 is equal to delta 2 into I2. Here delta 1 is given as delta. When the width is B, depth is D, deflection is clearly given. Look at the diagram, look at the problem. When the width is B and depth is D, at the central load undergoes a deflection delta. Deflection is given delta. Okay. The I equal to I1, this is the I1, this is the I2. So I1 equal to B d cube by 12. B d cube by 12 is equal to delta 2. I2 equal to dB cube by 12. Of course, this 12 cancelled. Then delta 1b is cancelled, 1d is cancelled. Finally, it is d square. Delta d square equal to delta 2 into b square. Therefore, delta 2 equal to d by b whole square multiplied by delta. Therefore, when the width and depth are replaced, the deflection, new deflection, delta 2 equal to d by b whole square into original deflection. Look at the options. Look at the option B, d by b whole square into delta. Therefore, option B is absolutely correct. I hope you understood. You please try at least twice this problem because this is very, very important problem. Let us take one more problem. Look at the second problem. The given figure shows a cantilever of span L subjected to a concentrated load P and moment M at the free end. So look at the cantilever beam. It is subjected to both point load. This is the point load. So this is the point load which is acting at the free end, and one moment is acting in the anti-clockwise direction at the free end like this. You are asked to find the deflection at the free end is given by. What is the deflection at the free end? Very simple. Deflection due to point load. Deflection due to point load or concentrated load. Let that is delta 1 is equal to PL cube by 3EI. Similarly, deflection due to bending moment M, let that is delta 2 equal to ML square by 2EI. Then the total deflection. Therefore, total deflection at the free end, delta equal to delta 1 plus delta 2. This is delta L1 equal to PL cube by 3EI plus ML square by 2EI. The first part is deflection due to point load, and the second part is deflection due to bending moment. I hope you got my point. Look at the options. PL cube by 3EI PL cube by 3I. PL cube by 3I. This is the deflection due to point load. ML square by 2EI. This is the deflection due to the bending moment. According to our notations, this is the deflection due to point load delta 1. This is the deflection due to the bending moment at the free end delta 2. The delta total equal to delta 1 plus delta 2. Therefore, option D is absolutely correct. I hope you got my point. Let us take one more problem. Look at the third problem. Two beams of equal cross-sectional area are subjected to equal bending moment. If one beam has a square section and other beam has circular section, then option A, remember, for the same bending moment, you please remember square section is stronger than circular section. It is very important point. For the same bending moment, square cross-sectional beam always stronger than the circular beam. That is the practical reason why for a building almost all beams are with the square cross section or other than circular cross section. Anyhow, option B, look at the option B, square section beam will be stronger. Option B is absolutely correct. I hope you got point. Let us take the another problem. Look at the fourth problem. A beam is having a triangular cross section, of course diagram given, with its neutral axis xx. This is the neutral axis. The section modulus about xx is given by, you are asked to find the section modulus z. The section modulus about xx equal to I by y. Since the xx is the neutral axis, with respect to apex, this is the y bar. This y bar equal to 2 by 3 into h, where h be the height of the triangle. So anyhow, I by, you should take the y bar. Now I equal to, for a triangle I equal to bh cube by 36 and y bar equal to 2 by 3 into h. Then section modulus about xx axis equal to I by y bar, I equal to bh cube by 36 divided by 2 by 3 times the h. So 12 times. Okay, one h is cancelled. Finally it is moment of inertia about, not moment of inertia, section modulus about xx axis equal to bh square by 12 2 times 24. So this is the section modulus for the given triangle about xx axis. So look at the option C, bh square by 24. I hope you got my point. Option C is absolutely correct. Okay na? Let us take one more problem. Look at the fifth problem. Two shafts A and B are made of same material. Okay. The radius of shaft A is half that of B. It is given that radius of the shaft A is half that of B, RB by 2. Okay. Then the power transmitted by the shaft A will be dash that of the B. You are asked to find what is the power transmitted by the A in terms of B, in terms of power transmitted by the B. Okay. As we know, dear friends, power P equal to 2 pi nt by 60. Since nothing is spoken regarding the speed, speed is remaining constant. Assume speed is constant. Assume speed of the A and B are constants. Then power is proportional to torque. But torque equal to pi by 16 into tau into d cube. Assume that tau is also constant, then torque is proportional to d cube. Since the power is proportional to torque is proportional to d cube, you can say that power is proportional to d cube. Since power is proportional to d cube, I can say that power by d cube is proportional to 1, or power by d cube is equal to a constant. Power by d cube is a constant. Since power by d cube is constant, I can say that Pa by dA cube is equal to Pb by dB cube. But he is asking the power transmitted by the A in terms of B. From this I can write that power transmitted by the A equal to power transmitted by the B multiplied by dA by dB whole cube. Here radius RA equal to RB by 2. If RA equal to RB by 2, I can say that dA, एक minute, dA equal to dB by 2. Then power transmitted by A equal to PB times the dA equal to dB by 2 whole cube divided by dB cube. So power transmitted by A equal to PB times the 1 by 8 times the dB cube by dB cube. These two are cancelled. Therefore, power transmitted by A is 1 by 8 times that of B. PA equal to 1 by 8 times the PB. Therefore, the answer is, look at the answers, 1 by 8 times that of B. Option A is absolutely correct. Look at the option A. Option A is absolutely correct. I hope you got my point. Let us take one more problem. Look at the sixth problem. A circular shaft is subjected to a torque T and bending moment M. The ratio of maximum shear stress to maximum bending stress is. It is given that the torque, a circular shaft is subjected to a torque T and bending moment M. The ratio between maximum shear stress and maximum bending moment. Indirectly, you are asked to find the torque by the shear stress by the ratio between the maximum shear stress and bending stress. Shear stress by bending stress is equal to how much? For that, as you know, torque T equal to pi by 16 into tau into d cube. From this, the shear stress equal to 16T by pi d cube. Similarly, bending moment M equal to pi by 32 into bending stress into d cube. From this, the bending stress equal to 32M by pi d cube. He is asking shear stress by bending stress. Therefore, the shear stress by bending stress is equal to, look at the shear stress. Shear stress is 16T by pi d cube. 16T by pi d cube divided by bending stress is 32m by pi d cube. 32m by pi d cube. Here this pi d cube cancelled. Tau by bending stress is equal to, okay, this 16 2 times. So torque by twice the bending moment. So the ratio between the maximum shear stress, and maximum bending stress is torque by 2m. Look at the options. Look at the option B. Torque by 2m. Therefore, option B is absolutely correct. I hope you got my point. Let us take one more problem. Look at the 7th problem. In case of horizontal beam loaded under bending, a horizontal beam is loaded under bending. The point of inflection or point of contraflexure corresponding to point of the beam where, generally point of contraflexure occurs in the overhanging beam. Point of contraflexure means the point where the bending moment changes its sign from positive to negative or negative to positive is called point of contraflexure. It means at the point of contraflexure, the bending moment is 0. Once again, the point of contraflexure means the point where the bending moment diagram changes its sign from positive to negative or negative to positive is called point of contraflexure, and in general, point of contraflexure occurs in the overhanging beam. Look at the option B. Bending moment changes its sign. Absolutely correct. Wherever the bending moment diagram changes its sign from negative to positive or positive to negative, that point is called point of contraflexure. I hope you got my point. Let us take one more problem. Look at the 8th problem. A cantilever beam 6 meters long as shown in figure is subjected to a linearly varying loading which has a maximum ordinate of 360 Newton meter at the fixed end on the right side. The moment as a function of x. Look at the diagram. You are asked to find the bending moment as a function of x. That x also given in the problem. This is the x. One side load is 0. Other side is 360 Newton meter. Remember, at a distance of x at this particular section, the intensity of load is that load into x by L. That is the intensity of load at that particular section. Then the bending moment at that section, 1 minute. So bending moment at that section, I can say mx equal to, first you try to convert from UVL to point load. Point load multiplied by perpendicular distance is the bending moment. That point load from the UVL is equal to area of the triangle for the distance of x. This triangle area is equal to point load, half into base, x into height. Height is 360 into x by L. So this resultant point load, this is the point load, this is giving the point load. This resultant point load is assumed to be acting at the center of gravity. For this case, the center of gravity, center of gravity is lying somewhere here. This is the center of gravity G. That center of gravity is at a distance of 2 by 3 into x. Other side it is x by 3. X by 3. Since the resultant point load is assumed to be acting at the center of gravity, that point load multiplied by this distance, that point load multiplied by the distance, this distance, that is x by 3, is giving the moment into x by 3. Once again, first I got the point load from the UVL. The point load from the UVL is obtained by taking the area of the triangle, half into base into height. Once you get the point load from the UVL, uniformly varying load, assume that resultant point load is acting at the center of gravity. That center of gravity is at a distance of 2 by 3 into x from 0 and x by 3 from the apex. Apex means this location. So we are finding the bending moment at a distance of x. Therefore, the point load at the center of gravity multiplied by this distance. This distance is x by 3. So you simplify this value, definitely you will get the required answer. 1 minute. Let us simplify this value. 360 into x into x into x, x cube by 6 into L. It is equal to 360 into x cube by what 6 into L equal to, L is given 6. L is given 6. It is equal to 360 into x cube divided by 36 is equal to 10x cube. 10x cube. That is how you will decide. Since the moment is in the anti-clockwise direction, he might be considered the anti-clockwise moment is the negative. That's the reason the answer he might took minus 10x cube. We got the 10x cube, right? That sign, right? He might took the anti-clockwise moment negative. Therefore, option C is absolutely correct. I hope you got my point. Once again, let me write clearly. The point load from the point load from UVL, uniformly varying load, is obtained by taking area of the triangle. Assume that point load is acting at the center of gravity. So the moment equal to, the bending moment is equal to point load multiplied by the perpendicular distance. I hope you got my point. Perpendicular distance. I try to explain clearly. If you feel still you have doubt, you drop a message to the GeoByte. Definitely you will get the answer for your question within 24 hours. Let us take one more problem. Look at the 9th problem. A thin-walled cylindrical or cylinder with closed ends for which inner radius is 0.5 meter and outer radius is 0.52 meter is subjected to internal pressure 2 megapascal. The absolute maximum shear stress on the inner surface of the cylinder will be, it is given like this. Let us take the thin cylindrical vessel. Thin cylindrical vessel may be like this. Thin cylindrical vessel may be like this. Maybe like this. With respect to center, this I can say the inner radius Ri, this is the outer radius R naught. Outer radius R naught. Then this is the thickness. The thickness equal to outer radius minus inner radius. Outer radius is 0.52 meters minus inner radius 0.5 is equal to 0.02 meters. Look at the problem once again. This is the inner radius and this is the outer radius. Outer radius. Okay. Pressure is given 2 megapascal. Pressure is given 2 megapascal. 2 megapascal. Now the diameter. So diameter equal to 2 times the radius. 2 times the radius. 2 times the outer radius. 2 times the outer radius is 0.52. 2 into 0.52 is 1.04 meters. Then the maximum shear stress tau max for thin cylinder is PD by 40. 1 minute. This is the outer diameter capital D, PD by 40. This is the formula. Pressure is given how much? Pressure is 2 megapascal into D 1.04 divided by 4. 4 into thickness you got it 0.02. You simplify this value for getting 26 megapascal. Therefore the answer is the maximum shear stress. Maximum shear stress is 26 megapascal. I hope you got my point. Answer, look at the options. Look at the option C. Option C 26 megapascal. I hope you got my point. Let us take one more problem. Look at the 10th problem. A bar of bronze and a bar of steel are placed between two immovable supports. So a bar of bronze and steel are placed between the two rigid supports. Immovable supports means rigid supports. Okay. A and B as shown in figure. The physical constants are L is the length of the bars, E be the cross-sectional area, alpha be the coefficient of linear expansion, E be the Young's modulus. Some data given, length for steel given, length for bronze, area of cross-section for steel, area of cross-section for bronze, coefficient of linear expansion of the steel and coefficient of linear expansion for the bronze, Young's modulus for steel and Young's modulus for bronze. Then the stresses in the steel and bronze when the temperature drops by 50 degrees centigrade. Here the temperature is dropping. By the time the temperature is dropping, the body tries to contract. The body tries to contract. But the rigid supports, by the time the body is contracting, the rigid supports are not allowing the contraction. Indirectly, some pulling force. By the time the temperature is decreased by 50 degrees centigrade, in both bronze bar and steel bar, the body tries to contract. But rigid supports are not allowing. Rigid supports are indirectly pulling the body or pulling the bars. Because of that pulling force, by the time the bars are contracting by drop of temperature, tensile force is developed. Because of the tensile force, tensile stress are developed. Therefore, option A is correct. Though some data given, the data which is given for this problem is coming under superpolars data. Nowhere we use that data for deciding the stresses. But remember, my dear friends, if the same temperature is increased in the body or bars, the compressive stress are developed. If the temperature is increasing, the bodies are trying to elongate, but rigid supports are opposing the elongation. Therefore, compressive stress are developed if the same temperature is increased in the same arrangement. I hope you got my point. Let us take another problem. Look at the 10th problem. The point of contraflexure is a point. The point of contraflexure is a point where the bending moment changes its sign from negative to positive or positive to negative. Therefore, at the point of contraflexure, the bending moment is 0. Anyhow, option B is correct. Remember, my dear friends, the point where the bending moment diagram changes its sign from negative to positive or positive to negative is called point of contraflexure. Generally, point of contraflexure is occurring in the overhanging beam. Let us take another problem. Look at the next problem. A circular shaft subjected to torsion undergoes a twist of 1 degree. That means angle of twist or twisting angle is given 1 degree in a length of 120 centimeter. Length of the body or length of the shaft is given 120 centimeters. If the maximum shear stress induced is limited to 1000 kg per cm square, maximum shear stress, that is tau, shear stress tau is equal to 1000 kg per cm square. Though it is given as maximum, you can simply write tau. And if the modulus of rigidity G equal to 0.8 into 10 power 6 kg per cm square, the modulus of rigidity G equal to 0.8 into 10 raised to 6 kg per cm square. Then the radius of the shaft should be, we are asked to find the radius of the shaft R equal to how much. Let us take the theta which is in radians, 1 multiplied by pi by 180. It is in radians. Remember, my dear friends, to convert from degrees to radians, it should be multiplied with pi by 180. Now let us do that part. Here, the angle of twist. Torsion equation is T by J equal to G theta by L is equal to tau by R. Tau by R. From this, take this particular relation. Take this relation. From this, I can write that G theta by L equal to shear stress by radius. From this, radius of the shaft equal to tau into length by g theta. Here shear stress is given. Look at the shear stress, how much it is given, 1000 kg per cm square, and the length is 120. 1000 into 120 divided by g is given 0.8 into 10 raised to 6. Theta is in radians, it should be pi by 180. It is equal to 1000 into 120 into 180 divided by 0.8 into 10 raised to 6 into pi. You simplify this value for getting around 27 by pi. It is in centimeters. This is the radius of the shaft, 27 by pi. Look at the options. Look at the option D, 27 by pi. I hope you got my point. Let us take one more problem. Look at the 12th problem. A thin cylindrical shell of diameter D, length L and thickness T is subjected to an internal pressure of P. The ratio of longitudinal strain to hoop strain. You are asked to find the ratio between the longitudinal strain and hoop strain. First, let us write the longitudinal strain. Longitudinal strain can be written as epsilon L is equal to sigma L by E minus sigma C by ME, where sigma L equal to longitudinal stress, sigma C equal to circumferential stress is also called hoop stress. E be the Young's modulus, 1 by m be the Poisson's ratio. Here circumferential stress equal to PD by 2T, longitudinal stress equal to PD by 4T. Let us put those values. PD by 4TE minus PD by 2TME. From this you write the PD by 2TE outside. PD by 2TE outside. 1 by 2 minus 1 by m. So it can be written as PD by 2TE into m minus 2 by 2m. That is the longitudinal strain. Now let us write the hoop strain. Hoop strain is also called circumferential strain. Circumferential strain. The circumferential strain epsilon C equal to sigma C by E minus sigma L by ME. Sigma C equal to PD by 2T into E minus PD by 4T into ME. You write the PD by 2T outside into 1 minus 1 by 2m. It is equal to PD by 2TE into 2m minus 1 by 2m. This is the circumferential strain. It is also called hoop strain. But you are asked to find what? You are asked to find the ratio of the longitudinal strain and hoop strain. So ratio between the longitudinal strain epsilon L by circumferential strain epsilon C equal to longitudinal strain by circumferential strain. So this is the longitudinal strain equal to PD by 2TE into m minus 2 by 2m divided by PD by 2TE into 2m minus 1 by 2m. This PD by 2TE is cancelled. PD by 2T is cancelled. Of course 2m also cancelled. Finally it is m minus 2 by 2m minus 1. So this is the ratio between the longitudinal strain and hoop strain, m minus 2 by 2m minus 1. Let us go for the options. Look at the option A, m minus 2 by 2m minus 1. Therefore option A is absolutely correct. I hope you got my point. Let us take one more problem. Look at the problem. A simply supported beam carries a load P through a bracket as shown in figure. The maximum bending moment in the beam is, look at the beam. The beam is subjected to eccentric loading. Then the free body diagram is looking like this. Let this is the A, this is the B. Reaction at A is RA, reaction at B is RB. Because of the eccentric loading, the moment developed at C, the middle point is C, the moment developed at C equal to this P multiplied by A. That P multiplied by A is developing the clockwise moment at C. In addition to that moment, the load which is acting, the point load which is acting at exactly at C is the P. This is the free body diagram. By using this free body diagram, you can find the maximum bending moment. Right. Now, let us separately draw the diagram. This is the simply supported beam A, B, exactly at center. The point load is there with a magnitude P and moment is there, clockwise moment is there. That clockwise moment equal to PA. This is the half of the length and other side also half of the length. To find the maximum bending moment, you need to find the reaction at A and reaction at B. Reaction at A can be found like this. Taking moments about B. To find the reaction at A, let us take the moments about B. With respect to B, RA into total length, RA into 1 minute, RA into total length L is developing the clockwise moment with respect to A, plus the moment at C also, this is the C, the moment at C, that is PA, also in the clockwise moment. It must be equal to the point load multiplied by up to distance L by 2. The reason why I took P into L by 2 other side is, with respect to B, P into L by 2 is developing the anti-clockwise moment, whereas RA into L is the clockwise moment and PA momentum at C also in the clockwise moment. Just we are equating the clockwise moments with the anti-clockwise moment with respect to B. then it can be written as RA into L, RA into L is equal to PL by 2 minus PA, minus PA. Therefore, the RA equal to P by 2 minus PA by L. So, RA equal to P by 2 minus PA by L, PA by L. Similarly, you can find the RB also. Since the maximum bending moment is asked to find, the maximum bending moment is developed under the load only, under the load that is at C. Therefore, let us find the maximum bending moment at C. Maximum bending moment is found at C is equal to the RA into up to distance C, that is L by 2, plus PA, plus PA. PA is also the clockwise moment, then it can be written as this RA, what is the RA? This is the RA, that is the RA equal to P by 2 minus PA by L into L by 2 plus PA, it is equal to PL by 4 minus PA, of course L cancel, PA by 2 plus PA. So it is equal to 1 minute. So it can be written as PL by 4 minus PA by 2 plus PA by 2 plus PA is plus PA by 2 plus PA by 2. Now from this what you do is write the 1 by 2 outside, it is equal to 1 by 2 into, if I take the 1 by 2 outside, it is becoming PL by 2 plus PA. So this is the maximum expected bending moment. This is the maximum expected bending moment at C. Maximum expected bending moment at C. Remember, your maximum bending moment is developed exactly at C. Therefore, I got half into PL by 2 plus PA. Look at the options. Half into PL by 2 into PA. Where is the answer? Look at the option C. If I multiply 1 by 2 for option C, then you can say this is the correct option. That might be a printing mistake. Anyhow, option C is absolutely correct. I hope you got my point. Let us take another problem. Look at the next problem. Two steel rails, each of 12 meters length, are laid with a gap of 1.5 mm at the ends at a temperature of 24 degrees centigrade. That means between the two rails or two rods of the railway track, small gap is placed. That gap is equal to 1.5 mm at a temperature of 24 degrees centigrade. The thermal stress produced at a temperature of 40 degrees centigrade. By the time the temperature is increasing from 24 degrees centigrade to 40 degrees centigrade, you are asked to find the thermal stresses or temperature stress. In the other data, Young's modulus is given 2 into 10 power 5 Newton per mm square, and coefficient of linear expansion or thermal expansion 12 into 10 power minus 6 per degree centigrade. Now let us write the given data, the length of the rails given 12 meters. 12 meters, let it be in mm, 12,000 mm, are laid with a gap of, here gap is provided, that is indirectly yielding is permitted, that permitted yielding equal to 1.5 mm. I will draw the diagram also, no problem. The initial temperature T1 equal to 24 degrees centigrade, final temperature T2 equal to 40 degrees centigrade. Young's modulus E equal to 2 into 10 power 5 Newton per millimeter square. Alpha equal to 12 into 10 power minus 6 per degree centigrade. It may be like this. This is the one rod is fixed like this. Other rod may be fixed like this. Other rod is fixed like this. This is the one rod, this is the other rod. The gap provided or gap maintained is delta. That is called yielding gap. Now change in length due to change in temperature, L alpha T minus delta. Change in length, L alpha T minus delta. The strain small e equal to change in length by original length. Here change in length is L alpha T minus delta divided by L. It is equal to alpha T minus delta by L. That is the strain. According to Hooke's law, stress by strain equal to constant. Stress by strain equal to constant is called Young's modulus. Therefore, thermal stress sigma Th is equal to Young's modulus multiplied by strain. It is equal to Young's modulus multiplied by strain is alpha T minus delta by L. Alpha T minus delta by L. That is the thermal stress. It is equal to, now you put all the values. All values are known. Young's modulus. Let us see the Young's modulus. Young's modulus equal to 2 into 10 power 5. Alpha equal to, E equal to 2 into 10 power 5 multiplied by alpha. Alpha given is 12 into 10 power minus 6. 12 into 10 power minus 6. Delta T, here T means dt. This dt equal to 40 minus 24. So 40 minus 24 minus delta is given 1.5 divided by, look at the delta. Yes, delta is 1.5 and the length, original length of the rod is 12,000 mm. 12,000. You simplify this value for getting the thermal stress developed in the body. The thermal stress what I got is, with my calculator I got 13.4 Newton per millimeter square. So anyhow, the thermal stresses which are developed due to temperature difference or increase in temperature is 13.4 Newton per mm square. Now look at the options. Look at the option C, 13.4 Newton per mm square. Therefore, option C is absolutely correct. I hope you got my point. Let us take one more problem. Look at the next problem. An aluminum tensile test specimen has a diameter d naught equal to 25 mm. Diameter d naught equal to 25 millimeters. And the gauge length means original length. That original length is given as L naught equal to 250 mm, 10 times the diameter. Okay. If a force of 175 kilonewtons, the force acting on the body 175 kilonewton. So it can also be written as 175 multiplied by 10 power 3 newtons. Elongates the gauge length by 1.25 mm. That means change in length is given. The change in length equal to 1.25 millimeter. The modulus of elasticity of the material is nearly. You are asked to find the Young's modulus. Young's modulus E equal to how much? Young's modulus E equal to how much? First let us find the area equal to pi by 4 into d square. D means here d naught. So it is equal to pi by 4 into d naught is 25 whole square. That is the area. Then the change in length delta L equal to PL by AE. From this, the Young's modulus E equal to PL by A into delta L. The Young's modulus E equal to P 175 into 10 raised to 3. The original length, here L means L naught. This L is L naught. L naught is 250 divided by A pi by 4 into 1 minute. Pi by 4 into 25 square multiplied by change in length 1.25. So it can also be written as 175 into 10 raised to 3 into 250. This 4 goes up into 4 divided by pi into 25 square into 1.25. You simplify this value. For getting around 71.3014 into 10 power 9 Newton per meter square. Sorry, this is not 10 power 9. Please simplify with your calculator. I got 71.3014 into 10 power 3 Newton per millimeter square. 1 Newton per millimeter square can be written as 1 megapascal. So it is equal to 71.3014 into 10 power 3 megapascal. 1 gigapascal equal to 10 power 3 megapascal. To convert from megapascal to gigapascal, from this 1 megapascal equal to 1 by 10 power 3 gigapascal. So to convert from megapascal to gigapascal, it should be divided with 10 power 3. 71.3014 into 10 power 3 divided by 10 power 3 gigapascal. So these two values are cancelled. Finally, answer is 71.3014 gigapascal. This is the answer. Approximately 71.3 or simply 71 gigapascal. Let us look the answers. Gigapascal. Option B is 71 megapascal. Option B is not correct because it is given in megapascal. Look at the option A. Option A is given in gigapascal. Therefore, option A is absolutely correct. I hope you got my point. Let us take one more problem. Look at the 16th problem. A tubular shaft having an inner diameter 30 mm. Inner diameter di equal to 30 mm and outer diameter 40 mm. Outer diameter d naught equal to 40 millimeter is to be used to transmit 80 kilowatt power. The power transmitted by the shaft is 80 into 10 raised to 3 watts. The speed of the rotation of the shaft so that the shear stress will not exceed. The shear stress tau is given. The shear stress tau equal to 50 megapascal. The same value I can write 50 Newton per mm square because 1 megapascal is equal to 1 Newton per mm square. Anyhow, you are asked to find the speed n. Speed n is how much? Dear friends, torque T equal to pi by 16 into shear stress into d naught power 4 minus di power 4 by d naught. Let us put them. Let us put the values. Pi by 16 into tau equal to 50 into outer diameter 40 power 4, inner diameter 30 power 4 by outer diameter 40. You simplify this value to get the torque equal to 429.5146 into 10 raised to 3 Newton mm. Let us convert it into Newton meter. It is equal to 429.5146 Newton meter. That is the torque. Then what is the power? Power P equal to 2 pi nt by 60. It is equal to 2 into pi into n. N to be found. N T 429.5146 divided by 60. What is this power value? Power value given. Look at the power value given. 80 into 10 power 3 watts. 80 into 10 raised to 3. From this, the speed n equal to, let us simplify, 80 into 10 power 3 into 60 divided by 2 into pi into 429.5146. You simplify this value for getting the speed around 1778.621 revolutions per minute. Let us have the look. Okay, options are given in RPM only. Anyhow, if it is asked in RPS, dear friends, if it is asked in RPS, you divide it by 60. Anyhow, the speed is 1778.621 RPM. Let us go for the options. Look at the option C. Look at the option C. 1778.7. 1778 point approximately 6. Okay. Then now you can take the option C is correct. I hope you got my point. Let us take the last problem. Look at the last problem. A cantilever beam of length L is subjected to a concentrated load P. Here concentrated load means point load P at a distance of L by 3 from the free end. The point load is acting at a distance of L by 3 from the free end. The deflection at the free end is, you are asked to find the deflection at the free end. The load arrangement for the beam is like this. Cantilever beam. This is the beam. The total length of the beam is L. The total length of the beam is L. Now the point load P is acting at a distance of L by 3 from the free end. If this length is L by 3, the other side length is 2 by 3 into L. 2 by 3 into L. You are asked to find the deflection at the free end. Let the fixed end is A. The load where the concentrating is B. The free end is C. You are asked to find the deflection at free end. Deflection at free end is equal to, as we know, deflection equivalent is equal to deflection at B, plus slope multiplied by the BC distance BC. Okay. Here deflection at B, as you know, it is a cantilever beam. Deflection is PL cube by 3EI. PL. Which distance you have to take? This AB length. Right? AB length cube by PL cube by 3EI. Okay. Plus the slope PL square by 2EI. PL square. L is the AB distance. PL square by 2EI into the distance BC. The distance BC is L by 3. So it is equal to P by 3EI multiplied by AB distance. AB distance is 2 by 3 into L whole cube plus P by 2EI. AB distance is 2 by 3 into L whole square into L by 3. So it is equal to P into L cube into 8 by 27 into 3 into EI plus PL cube by the numerator 4 divided by 3 square 9 into 3 27 into 2EI. You simplify this value, it is equal to 8PL cube by 27 into 3. 3 7 ja 21 81 EI plus this 2 times 2PL cube by 27 EI. Okay, it can also be written as let us take the LCM. 81 EI, it is 8 PL cube 27 3 ja 3 into 2 6, 6 PL cube. You simplify this value, 8 plus 6 equal to 14 PL cube, 14 PL cube by 81 EI. So that is the deflection. That is the deflection which is acting or which is developed at the free end. This is the deflection at free end. Free end. I hope you got my point. Now look at the options. Look at the option B, 14 PL cube by 81 EI. Therefore, option B is absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. Dear friends, I am concluding this video with this problem. You please go through all these problems. After listening all these problems, you practice yourselves all these problems. If you find any difficulty, please don't forget to drop a message to the GeoByte. Definitely you will be getting the answer within 24 hours. Please subscribe our channel called GeoByte. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
GeoByte.